Yo, I'm Matt,
And I'm Joel,
and
and
we're
we're
FringeCraft.
FringeCraft. Today we're going to be watching a video about an experiment at CERN that pokes holes in the standard model of physics. Uh, this video is done by Harry Cliff, who's a scientist that works on the Large Hadron Collider team. He's going to be explaining what this experiment is and why it's so significant.
So, before we get into the video, we just want to ask you to subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content, like this video if you like what you hear, and leave a comment to let us know what you think about this. Other than that, let's get into the video.
Hello, Harry Cliff here. There's been an exciting result released by the LHCb experiment at CERN, so I thought I'd make a short video to explain why this is potentially very big news indeed. In a nutshell, my colleagues have found particles called beauty quarks, which are sort of exotic cousins of the ordinary quarks you find in the nucleus of every atom, behaving in ways that we can't explain with our current best theory of particle physics. And crucially, if this is a real effect, it could be the first evidence for new fundamental particles that we've never seen before. Now that would be tremendously exciting, not just because particle physicists love to discover new particles, but also because it could help us answer some of the deepest questions in fundamental physics.
One thing that I find interesting is the fact that he looks our age or just slightly older.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that too. He looks like he's 35.
And he's part of a team that's finding out that the standard model of physics isn't correct. Or I guess they're proving it, not just finding it out.
Well, they're proving it to themselves, I
Ye-
guess. Like, no one else understands what they're talking
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Like what dark matter is, why the universe has matter in it at all, and whether the particles we know about fit into a deeper structure. So what exactly have we found? Well, this result comes from the LHCb experiment, one of 4 giant particle detectors on the Large Hadron Collider, the biggest particle collider in the world. Now, the collisions at the LHC produce billions and billions of these beauty quarks every year. And what my colleagues have done is measure how often these beauty quarks decay into electrons versus how often they decay into the sort of heavy version of the electron known as the muon. Now, that may all sound a bit technical, but the important thing to note is that the muon is in essence a carbon copy of the electron. So according to our best theories, we would expect beauty quarks to decay into muons just as often as they decay into electrons. But that isn't what we've found. Instead, these beauty particles appear to be decaying to muons less often than to electrons. And the reason everyone's getting a little bit excited is there's now around a 1 in 1,000 chance that this result is just a random statistical fluke. But here's the health warning. We do a lot of measurements at the Large Hadron Collider, and you might expect at least a few of them to fall this far from theory. And you can never be totally sure that you've caught every possible source of experimental bias. Ultimately, to know for sure whether we're seeing the effects of new particles, we're going to need more data. But fortunately, that's coming next year from an upgraded version of the LHCb experiment. So watch this space.
I don't know. I felt like he was kind of hyping up more LHC research funding
Yeah,
there.
that's probably reasonable. I mean,
I didn't totally understand what he was saying about like muons, electrons. That's not my background, but it doesn't surprise me that they'll see unexpected things happen in these experiments. And if they didn't, that would be very disappointing.
yeah. I mean, I totally agree. If it just proved everything that they already thought, it's like, well, then why did we do this?
Yeah, and part of the reason we covered this video is because we've talked so much about hadron colliders and energy reactions and stuff with the Sapphire video, and we just wanted to compare the two research groups between each other.
Yeah. One thing you were saying earlier is like, the standard model of how the universe works, and you have the electric universe, and you're even saying like you think maybe it should be called the plasma universe just because of the negative stereotype that electric universe has, that it's like looked at as a pseudoscience.
Yeah, it's looked at like flat earthers or something like that, but in reality they're just saying like, hey, like you guys have a theory, we don't have to like delve into the depths of it to say like, hey, we think another theory is more valid. And then that's, Project Sapphire has kind of spawned from just, we think there's a different way to do things that's probably going to work better.
And probably the Project Sapphire results wouldn't even be possible if this, the standard model of looking at things was correct anyway, right? So,
I don't think so, because like people are very skeptical of Sapphire's results. I'll say that. Like they had, no one else has replicated it, and they're doing it. It's a private company doing it, and all that stuff, and obviously it's outside of theory what they're doing, because they're mimicking the sun, and
yeah, or they're trying to, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it
cool.
came. I don't think they were. I don't think it started off right as a for-profit project. I think it started off as like a science experiment, and then after it created 14 times the heat energy, they realized like, oh, well,
Something's going on.
if we put in this much and we're getting 14 times, like this much energy is being put in and this much heat energy is coming out, which is 14 times greater, this is a way that could possibly be commercially viable to like generate energy.
And I mean, I don't think that happened completely on accident either. I think they had a theory itself about like, hey, we're going to mimic the sun based on all the phenomena we observe. We think it works something like this, and then just went for it. And then, surprisingly, it kind of worked. So
Yeah.
We're just comparing that to what we just watched about the LHC. So I guess it's good the LHC is kind of like disproving the standard model, because I feel like my entire life it's been like the pinnacle of physics, and as far as I'm concerned, nothing has come from it.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is powerful is that it's just showing like, okay, we have these models that aren't considered pseudoscience, and there's models that are considered pseudoscience.
Yeah, that's
and then point. Like now the science for sure, the academic science is saying, all right, well, what the academic science is no longer correct, and there's something new.
Yeah, they just get to decide what is science and what is pseudoscience.
Yeah.
Even though they're just as wrong as everybody else, right?
Yeah.
They're just like so much more confident in what they're saying being true.
Exactly. Well, not just that, they were claiming the validity of one model, and then they completely falsify it through their own experiments, and then they change and say, all right, this is the valid model. And it's like, it's not that it might not be the valid model, but it's to the fact that academia and people in general seem to discount other forms of scientific inquiry or
I agree.
Pseudoscience. I mean, to say something is pseudoscience is basically to like write it off completely without actually experimenting or looking into it.
Yeah,
which is anti-science in my opinion. That's like, science that's not knowledge. That's the opposite of knowledge. That's ignorance.
Yeah, it's like it's like false confidence even.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good thing that they're getting results that violate an accepted theory. That's always what leads to breakthroughs. And I hope maybe it'll bring Electric Universe to the forefront. Who knows?
Yeah. And, we'll keep an eye out on this guy's YouTube page. He has 50 subscribers. Maybe, we'll link it down below. You can go and follow him. He might be someone to keep up with. This is his first video, and so he might be releasing more powerful videos. I mean, if you're in your first video on YouTube, you're disproving standard models of physics. It's
and I think he did a great job with the pacing and everything. So give him a like and a subscribe. Leave a comment there as well.
I agree. Well, I've been Matt.
And I'm Joel.
And we're FringeCraft.
See you guys.
Later.